Hey, Scott Jordan here for Jancast number
216.
June 25th, 2026. Safer choice is safer. So I got some good news to report. I've complained about the Safer Choice program and Green Seal in general, and whether or not there's business or not. But the good news is, even though back in show number 175, September 5th of 2024, I talked about the fact that we're, every 2 years, 3 years, depends on which audit it is. There's a desk audit that's required by Safer Choice to maintain your certification, and then there's also a kind of over the phone documentation audit, and each one of those costs thousands of dollars. So back in 74 or 2024, I questioned whether or not the program was even going to be continued by the time I got done paying for the audit. So I was concerned about that, and I wrote to Clive Davies, who was at that point was the head of the Safer Choice program, and got an indication that there's nothing going to happen to it. But back then, with all the cuts going on and the Doge cuts and everything else, we just assumed that program was going to be killed off. But good news is, it looks like things are turning around a little bit, at least so far. On June 3rd, 2026. Chris Coons and Jon Husted, a Republican and Democrat, introduced Safer Choice Program Authorization Act, which is S.4664. And it states that this is important because it represents a bipartisan effort to formally establish EPA's Safer Choice. Before this, it was really not an official program. So now what they're trying to do with this bill is codify the program via this statute, which would give it long-term stability and make it harder to cut. And it's also going to be part of the EPA to maintain the rigorous science-based standards. So we had a lot of backing from ISSA on this, as well as some key players like Clorox and some of the other Staples, I think, was involved in it because they were an early adopter of green programs. So good news is, I think this means it's going to be around for a while. So I guess the money I paid in the audit for the 10 or 15 products that we have, and then numerous private label versions of those, are still going to be maintained. I don't see a huge increase in business, but part of this program that they're putting in place is also going to require the military to purchase a certain percentage of Safer Choice programs products. And they also have a goal of increasing the total number of approved products from like 1,300 to over 2,000 in this year. So great news that it's continuing, and thought I'd pass that on since I have been in the past a purveyor of bad news that I thought we kind of assumed it was going in that direction, but it looks like maybe there's a little turnaround. In fact, it's put out there by both Democrats and Republicans. That's a great thing. So let me have my AI co-host give a recap of their opinion on this whole thing. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
If you check the back of your everyday household products, you will likely find the EPA's Safer Choice program acting as a quiet, ubiquitous presence in the consumer ecosystem. Yet during the EPA reorganization of 2025, that tiny logo faced a severe threat. There were real concerns across the industry that the program would be entirely eliminated or privatized. The program managed to survive the purge, but it took an administrative demotion, losing its independent status. This diagram shows the updated agency hierarchy, where Safer Choice was folded directly into the EPA's broader New Chemicals division. Usually, massive corporate entities celebrate deregulation. In this case, over 250 of those giants unexpectedly stepped up to defend the government program. Major industry players, including Clorox, BASF, Unilever, and Staples, publicly lobbied EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin to preserve the certification. Mega corporations fighting to keep a government regulation alive reveals a unique market reality. That little green label holds immense hidden economic power. For these chemical and consumer goods giants, the Safer Choice label serves as a critical tool for doing business, far divorced from the idea of bureaucratic red tape. First, the program provides a clear, reliable framework for safer chemistry innovation, acting as a direct guide for corporate research and development teams. Second, it offers a trusted, government-backed certification. Private standard makers simply lack the authority to replicate that level of inherent consumer trust. That certification translates directly into market access, granting immediate credibility with strict retail buyers and large-scale institutional purchasers. These corporations pressured the EPA to preserve the program because they need this exact government framework to maintain a competitive edge and sell their inventory. Driven purely by the label's proven ability to generate revenue, the free market transformed into the program's most effective defensive shield. The overwhelming industry demand for the label quickly translated into formal political momentum on Capitol Hill. Lawmakers introduced bipartisan legislation proposing statutory authorization, a move designed to upgrade the program from a vulnerable administrative initiative into permanent law. The most significant development in this formal recognition arrived tucked inside the fiscal year 2025 National Defense Authorization Act. This act legally directs the Department of Defense to prioritize purchasing Safer Choice certified cleaning products whenever practical. Shielded by bipartisan legislation and massive defense contracts, the EPA pushed forward, expanding the program standards despite the turbulence of the recent reorganization. The agency rolled out several administrative expansions. They updated packaging requirements, wrote new partnership termination provisions, and created a fresh certification pathway specifically for cleaning service providers. They even introduced an entirely new product classification, the Outdoor Use Safer Choice label. This new designation covers a wide array of specialized goods, ranging from grill cleaners and pet care items to heavy-duty marine maintenance products. By analyzing these legislative and regulatory actions combined, the outcome is clear. The program survived its brush with elimination and aggressively expanded both its market reach and its statutory footprint. Looking back at the threats from 18 months ago, the program's status today is far more secure than before the cutbacks were proposed. The EPA demonstrates an ongoing internal commitment to the initiative by maintaining the safer chemical ingredients list and pursuing aggressive strategic targets. This chart plots the agency's concrete growth metrics, projecting an upward trend to achieve approximately 2,300 certified products by the end of fiscal year 2026. This measurable growth trajectory completely invalidates any expectation of an agency program in retreat. The most resilient government programs aren't those existing in bureaucratic isolation. They are the ones that become so tightly integrated into free market capitalism that industry and Congress will actively step in to guarantee their survival.